you're not allowed to bring a gun to a protest. I mean, I'm sorry. That's not what the Second Amendment says. That's not what all the Supreme Court justices that were put in, by Trump that have been leaning more conservatively and giving us great case law that supports the Second Amendment,
We're all entitled to have the opinions that we have. With that being said, it would also be nice for a lot more people to speak up that are even in support of the current administration of just saying, hey, like, this is wrong, right? Because, sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. You can still be in support of the current presidential administration and then still say, hey, the way that this was handled was completely wrong and unjustified. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. Today is an episode where we're going to be going through quite a few different topics, and Farah has been replaced by one of our legal interns, Audie. Welcome back, my man. How you doing?
I'm chilling.
You chilling?
You know why we chose to replace Farah with Audie?
Tell me, why?
Because they both have long hair, and yeah, that's about it.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
That's not where I thought you were gonna go with that.
Well, I knew he was going to. I was hoping that he would say something a little bit more scandalous, but he's saving that for a little later in the podcast.
Yeah, he's behaving for right now.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So look, there's a lot going on, especially on the legal side, and with immigration. And because you are our legal scholar, why don't you set us off?
So I will say we are seeing a great dynamic of federal versus state power today. Currently, as a few days ago, there's been a few shootings that have happened over the past few weeks. One of a young lady in, I believe, Minnesota during an ICE, protest, which many are arguing, like, the video evidence I can create as a lawyer, both positive and negative arguments, right? I can argue in support of the shooting and or the fact that she shouldn't have been shot.
And who we're referencing is Renée Good.
Yeah, I don't know their names, but the second shooting that most happened recently, which has been a very, very controversial shooting, and I honestly am having a hard time as a lawyer even arguing for the justification, is the one of Alex Pretti.
Alex Pretti, yeah.
So this guy was, I'd like to premise this with, he was a 37-year-old nursing student,
No, the ICU nurse.
ICU nurse, yeah. So 37-year-old ICU nurse. Obviously he chose to engage in some political protests, which, in my opinion, at 37 years old, you can't catch me out of my house after 5 p.m. But that's his right. And I don't necessarily agree with people going out and engaging in protests for I don't think the form of political protest is really doing anything nowadays. It's just getting people hurt, as we can see. But despite that, he still went out there and he was utilizing his First Amendment right, which is his right. But it looks like in the video, and Tremont, if you could throw the video into the podcast at some point, you'll be able to see him like get detained, and it's like 4 or 5 ICE officers holding him down, and then the angle's so shitty. I mean, I feel like I'm watching the fucking video from the World Trade Center. It's all like blurry and shit, but it shows like he's on the ground. All of a sudden, you see one of the ICE officers from one angle remove a gun from the scene, and after the gun is removed, it looks like he is shot. And that is where I have the fucking big problem, right? So like obviously it's the tension in the air in America, in the rhetoric of people attacking ICE officers and getting so combative about this immigration stuff. it's really becoming, you can see the tension there because, look, yes, he brought a firearm to the protest, right? Number one, it's his right to do so. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse did this.
And Kyle Rittenhouse killed 3 people.
He justifiably killed 3 people, you know, based off of the court case that we saw. But all things considered, that's his right to bring a firearm. So, you know, that's kind of what really kind of caught my attention is the dynamic, and I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on it. Is what are your thoughts on this situation? How do you feel about it? Right, and let's talk to Audie first
Yeah.
because statistically, younger people. Do you know that's I believe based on history, that's the reason why there's a minimum age for the presidency because they don't trust young people to be like
You have to be at least 38 years
it's
of
like
age.
yeah 36 or 38
No,
or
I think
some
it's
shit.
35. 35 or older, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know like there's a minimum age, right? But
Tremont will put it on screen. I
that's the
think it's
reason.
38. It might be 35, but I'm pretty sure it's 38.
That's the reason why they have that minimum age. I've read is because younger people are not, you know, as rational. So as the unrational member here today, what do you think about protests? What do you think about the shooting? What do you think about what's going on?
Well, we'll just start off with protests. I think protests would be a good idea if people could actually, coexist kind of thing and actually listen. But there's so many people out there that get aggressive for no reason or get angry and they want to just immediately shut down something that it's not a good idea to participate in, which sucks because again, it's our right to do so. But and it shows with the shooting, people were protesting and I haven't seen the video, so I don't really know what actually happened. But from what I heard, the dude got shot. He didn't even do anything wrong, really.
Yeah, I think he was like just, you know, arguing with ICE officers or something like that. Like it looked like they were in a verbal confrontation, tensions got high, you know, heat of the moment type stuff, but nothing that would warrant like, you know, him
Putting
getting
3
killed.
bullets in him.
Yeah, nothing warranting him to get killed. So, you know, with that being said, I mean, when you see this sort of stuff happening, I mean, how have you ever wanted to go into a like a political protest or anything like that, or you know, done a walkout or anything?
I thought about it, like doing a walkout for like, because I think we have like coming up on like the 14th or something like that.
For what?
I'm not even sure. That's the thing. Like, I have no idea what's about. The only reason I would want to walk out is just to do it. But
Once again, why we don't let 18-year-olds become the president.
um, but I've never really like.
You are not making your age group look good right now.
Hey, listen. I
just want to be a part of it.
No, I think that's most of the people. Like when they go to a protest, I don't think they're like, "What are we here for?" Like when I see a protest, I'm like, "What are they protesting right now?" I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, what are your thoughts?
I think that protesting is one of the most powerful tools that you can have as a citizen. Now, whether that's protesting buying a product, whether that's protesting online, or even protesting in person, protesting is a very, very powerful tool to showcase people kind of coming together and being against something that's wrong, or coming together to protest for something that they feel is right in their eyes. In this case, I mean, you touched upon it. I think it's become a lot less effective, especially in the current state of affairs, because they've gotten violent, and there's also been a lot of times where there's just a huge destruction of property, like all across like cities in the US, which has made people look down upon it. But peaceful protesting is essentially what this country was built on. I mean, protests in the late 1700s is what caused the American Revolution, right? Protest during the Civil Rights era is what got rid of segregation amongst Black and ethnic people. and something that we're still feeling the reverberating effects for today. I think now circling back to the recent protests going on in Minnesota, Minnesota's been a really big hotspot for a lot of like political controversy as of late because of all of the fraud going on, and now with all of the immigration protests. The Renee Good shooting, I feel, is arguable on both sides, where you can see why the ICE officer was justified, and on the other end of the spectrum, you can see why it wasn't justified. But Alex Pretty's, I've seen the video multiple times. It was basically murder, right? Regardless of the angle that you look at it from, it wasn't. There was no reason why they should have shot him in the manner that they did, especially after disarming him, because I saw that same thing where like the gun wasn't even on him. And then it's not a good situation when Trump himself is somebody who is fiercely attached to any rhetoric that he brings forth. And the fact that he's even softened his stance on it recently, calling it like a sad situation, and the NRA coming forward and saying that it was unjustified. And the fact that Greg Bovino, the person in charge of all of these immigration protests across Minnesota, has now essentially been fired from his job and moved back to what his prior position was. It really just goes to show you, like, hey, this was unjustified. It was wrong, and there's no way that you can spin it that it was justified, because what they've and we talk about this all the time with like Democrats and Republicans trying to skew the media. Your eyes don't lie unless like they're creating some AI imagery, right? But a majority of people can see that video and see, man, this guy should not have been gunned down in this manner. And for the administration to, at the beginning, come forward with all of these lies and being caught in these lies, I think that's what's causing such a visceral reaction across both sides. So
Yeah, and look, to touch on a few things you said, the concept of protest is something that the country was founded on, right? That's why we have the First Amendment. The amendments are in a particular order, I think, for a very good reason, right? We have the first, that is free religion, free
freedom of speech.
free press, so on and so forth. We have the second, which is arguably the most important to me, is the right to bear arms. And I'm not talking about like bears with arms. I'm talking about like holding arms, firearms. And the third, that I believe the third is where we talk about like the quartering of troops and stuff, right? And so like what I'm seeing now, I'm not saying the quartering of troops is historically when the British came and they literally put, troops in the colonists' houses to kind of control what was going on, which ultimately led to the American Revolution, so on and so forth. And there were a lot of crazy protests during that time. One of the most famous is the Boston Tea Party, right? That was a protest on tax. Like it was destruction of property, but it was destruction of property of the people they were protesting, right? The British. The British were imposing the taxes. And look, it led to ultimately providing us a country where we can freely protest. I mean, the fact that we have Minnesotans right now, and this is going to sound screwed up, but I'm going to explain why I say this. During these protests that have been happening over the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, um, only two people have been confirmed to be killed. I believe, is that correct? I think so.
I think, yeah. I know there was one other, but but two specifically in Minnesota.
On one hand, we can
Yeah.
count, and I'm not trying to undermine the loss of life in that situation under no circumstance. But what I'd like to contrast it to is what's going on in Iran. The Ayatollah and the Iranian regime right now, the estimates that they've released, that they've admitted to killing, is somewhere between like 3 and 5,000 people. The off the real estimates that the other media outlets and other Iranian news sources there as of a few days ago, was putting it within the past like 2 weeks up to 30,000
Yeah,
people, guys.
I mean, we talked about it during the last episode.
So we live in a time where we live in a great country where you are afforded that ability to protest, right? And I think that goes to show like how great America is. But we also have to be reasonable. Like there should be zero death when it comes to protests, and I don't think the concept of property damage. We shouldn't be dealing with that either. We're adults, right? So it's crazy. What I don't like is we're seeing it's like we get this crazy back and forth, right? We get this crazy back and forth of Cash Patel. He went and said, you're not allowed to bring a gun to a protest. I mean, I'm sorry. That's not what the Second Amendment says. That's not what all the Supreme Court justices that were put in, by Trump that have been leaning more conservatively and giving us great case law that supports the Second Amendment, that's not what they say. So what are you talking about when
But
you say?
but you touched upon it earlier as well with like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
You can't be a big fan of his, which Cash Patel is, right? He's come out being, prior saying what a big fan of Kyle Rittenhouse he was, and now saying you can't bring a gun to a protest.
Well, listen, I think it's crazy when, there's some memes floating around the internet. And once again, I didn't do too much deep digging into this because I just don't have the time. But, I saw a meme where like it has like someone leaning into Trump and they're like, sir, because Rittenhouse posted something, and it was, and maybe Tremont can find it, but it's like, like you should always something along the lines of, you're allowed to carry a gun at a protest, right? That's because essentially what happened to him, right? He was carrying a gun and at a protest that got out of control, and he won that case, right? But what it really boiled down to is someone was leaning into Trump's ear and they were like, "Hey, sir, we just lost Rittenhouse because he posted that," and I'm like, "That's what's going on here," because you are like I ain't gonna support the government ever telling me I can't carry a firearm. I don't want the government to tell me what kind of firearms I can carry. I don't want them to know I'm carrying firearms. And that's just me as a Second Amendment, advocate. I'm not a Second Amendment attorney, but I'm telling you, I'm an attorney that loves the Second Amendment. If you see my collection, like I don't I love my guns. And it's not because I'm crazy. It's just it's a right that I'm afforded to that I acknowledge as an attorney that other people don't have, right? So I love that, right? And that's part of my way of protesting other countries' inability to have self-defense. So what do you I mean, obviously you're young, and I think as of now, you're not allowed to buy a pistol, I believe, until you're 21.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about carrying guns at a protest? In this with this in the news.
So I think that's when it's a little like confusing in a way, because it's like with you carrying a firearm at a protest when tensions are already really high, with a whole bunch of like people that don't like each other around, you either A, gotta hide it really well or just not bring it. Because if something pops off, I don't think your first reaction should be to reach for your firearm and start shooting shots also. I think it should be to get out of there. So you really don't need your firearm, I feel like, at a protest. Now, if you're carrying it, that's your own personal thing. But then at the same time, if something happens between you and someone else, you also got to keep in mind that like the tension is already going to be 10 times higher because you have a gun on you. I feel like personally.
Well, and that's actually that's a good, it's a good thing you mentioned because there are certain limitations. There's a way for the government to impose certain limitations on when you can and cannot possess a firearm. For instance, they have valid limitations of you not being able to bring a firearm to a court building, right? There's certain constitutional tests which we don't need to get into because 90% of you guys won't understand it. Shit, I as a lawyer have trouble understanding it, but I do think there might be, a situation where now, if you do have a certified permit where you're engaging in a political protest and it's confined to a certain area, I do think that this might be a situation where we got to start limiting, people that are involved in the protest carrying firearms. Sadly, but I don't want to see civil war, and I don't want to see people die over a bullshit narrative that media pushes, right? So I do take that with consideration.
I think Audie just touched upon it, and I agree with him that the tensions are really, really high, and it's a different time it's a different time with these protests because there is essentially like a militarization of like ICE personnel
Yeah.
across these cities. And if you are attending a protest or like a peaceful protest with two opposing crowds that are just, passionately defending what they stand for, it's different than attending a protest where there is a ton of police personnel and a ton of other personnel carrying firearms. It creates a completely different environment. Like it's sort of like, nowadays, I mean, even if we take into account like the way that we live our day-to-day lives, right? We drive around, we see police cars, driving to, take care of any car accidents or reporting to any domestic disputes or domestic calls. But when we're driving through our neighborhood, driving around the Winter Park area where we're located, or in Oviedo or downtown Orlando, uh, you're not dealing with a big military presence.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it must be like being in that city right now and just seeing all of these military personnel around them 24/7. Because if that was our environment every day, the way that we would carry ourselves would be a lot different than we do right now, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If it makes you feel like if they're carrying a gun, like I gotta carry a
Yeah,
gun.
because
Like,
you're uneasy. You're
yeah,
uneasy. It doesn't make you feel good.
yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about was oh man, I forgot. It was something interesting you mentioned. Oh, you know what that like when you were talking about it, it actually made me. Have you seen the last season? It was one of the last seasons, or it might not have been the last season, but it was. Do you watch The Boys on Amazon?
I have seen the
You've
first.
seen it, right?
I've seen the first two seasons, but I'm behind. I
So
tried to get Shiana into it,
so
but
it I started I love that show, right? But this reminds me, Adi, doesn't this situation kind of remind me of when what's his name? Who's the main guy?
Homelander.
Homelander. When Homelander they're at that protest and he like flips out.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I've
flips
seen
out
that
and
clip.
just blows the guy's head off, and then everyone's like, "Yeah," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"God just committed murder." Like I feel like we're in a Homelander situation right
Yeah.
now, dude.
Yeah.
Yo,
Luckily,
put
though, no one had.
Homelander on when you see it, Tremont. Put Homelander on that
What
shit.
what I want to see though ultimately
Put that video in.
is it is I am 100% okay with people expressing like their political opinions. So whether you are a supporter of the Trump administration or you are against the Trump administration, you touched upon it. Like that's freedom of speech, right? We're all entitled to have the opinions that we have. With that being said, it would also be nice for a lot more people to speak up that are even in support of the current administration of just saying, hey, like this is wrong,
Yeah,
right? Because, sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. You can still be in support of the current presidential administration and then still say, hey, the way that this was handled was completely wrong and
of course.
unjustified. And I think like that's an issue that I have sometimes is that people are so people put their blinders on and just don't want to consider what they're seeing at face value and trying to defend it like that this guy should have been murdered in the way that he was. And no, it was completely wrong. And I am glad that there are people that are calling it out that do support the administration. So
Yeah. Well, so we did want to um talk about some other government infringements that Audie is taking personally.
Yeah, Audie,
Tell
keep
us
us in the
tell us
loop.
about what's going on with 3D printing world.
So it doesn't affect me personally, but it is a big thing that's being talked about in the community of 3D printing. The government in certain states, I think in like Seattle and potentially New York, I can't really remember exactly, but
Democrat states.
yeah, they're trying to ban the ability for 3D printers to actually print gun parts or gun like anything related to guns. And like the government is trying to get the 3D printing companies to put some software on the 3D printers that they bought to pretty much report anything related to guns straight to the government so that the government knows and they can come over there and make sure like you're not doing anything illegal.
Oh wow.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, personally, I think it's a big like, infringement on your privacy. Like
What's something you 3D print?
I 3D print little small things like little gadgets. I'm trying to right now I'm in the process of 3D printing out like a drone to like as a little project and
To spy for China?
I mean
Audie does look like he would be a spy for China.
With his
oh god, what with my eyes? Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna walk away from this. We'll walk away from this. I'm just gonna slowly,
Mike is
slowly
moonwalking
walk
back.
away from the ledge that I'm about to jump off.
Hey man. Hey man. I'm not spying for China. Let's just put that out there. Let's
Truman, put across the
No.
screen, not a spy for China.
But,
Not a
what
spy
I'm
for China.
saying, is like, but that's the point. You're doing something that's you're not, you don't have any malintent, right? Like
yeah.
you're just printing a drone to just because it's something you can do.
Yeah.
And I've seen cases like this pass and go about. Like I know they were trying to do restrictions on, I believe, the ability for those CAD files, because I think it's CAD, right? You guys use CAD to do stuff.
Yeah, kind of. There is CAD, yeah.
So there's like I don't know shit about 3D printing or any of that stuff or CNC, but I've read some cases where I believe they sued because they were trying to restrict the abilities for people to transfer those files, and I think they lost that. So ultimately I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. I do think, look, I'm not a 3D printer. I don't want to go 3D print guns. Frankly, I just don't think they're they're the best use of my resources, and I'm not going to put my safety in a Mike Singh law 3D printed gun.
I am actually surprised though that if this is true, because it's you guys just told me about it right before the podcast, that we're under like supposedly conservative administration, right? And Republicans and conservatives, the ideals are, I want the government to stay out of my business, and I want the right to bear arms, right, freely. This is literally against what the conservative values are, because now you are against people being able to bear arms in like their own way, even if like they have to manufacture it themselves, right?
Yeah.
And you're implementing big brother techniques to monitor people now with what they're creating with their 3D printers. So because the moment, that's the fine line that you have to tread with data sharing, is that the moment they know you have this 3D printer and you could just have maybe done this as a one-off creating it, now does it give them permission to now see, okay, what else is he 3D printing now?
Yeah.
Right? Because the moment they have access to you, it means that they will always now have continued access to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people's fears, is like government, big tech kind of being all in your business 24/7.
Well, here's the thing. The scary part about it is, and this is something that came out of the Biden administration. They were using, warrants and these secret warrants and subpoena powers to spy on their political opponents, right? Like that's an issue, man. Like
It's a huge issue.
it's a huge issue. Like, look, I'm all for catching someone doing something wrong, but here's the thing: you got to catch them first. You can't just go and try to invade people's privacy to try to find them. Everyone should have that right to privacy, right? So it's definitely something we always look at. One of the next thing I wanted to go into is something a little bit crazy. I was watching a video this morning, Ryan Wedding. So he was just we don't know if he turned himself in or he was captured. There is I watched a video this morning by another YouTuber, and he basically said that Ryan Wedding, there's like a whole litany of people that kind of collaborated with him on a bunch of stuff, and it was actually really surprising at some of the shit that this guy was saying. So evidently Ryan Wedding was a very well off young guy. He was a snowboarder. He was in the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics, and then he started becoming a narco trafficker, evidently. And he made it onto FBI's top 10 list. And Cash Patel said he's the modern day Pablo Escobar. I mean, I have it. I have a hard time believing that, but I'm looking forward to the new season of Narcos, but based out of Canada. But whatever. But what was crazy is this guy made some in his thing. Evidently, one of the reasons why Ryan Wedding caught so much attention is he was engaged with like this lawyer. So he was engaged with a bunch of people, and one of the people's is a Canadian, I believe, is a Canadian lawyer, and supposedly the guy was his Instagram handle was the cocaine lawyer because he like got a bunch of drug traffickers, got him out of jail, so on and so forth. I don't know, but now he's sitting in federal prison, I believe, or in prison, and he's undergoing like investigation because I guess he used his network of clients to help Ryan Wedding, commit crimes, right? So like obviously that's an ethical violation. We as lawyers aren't supposed to do that. That's something we always strive to do. Like I don't want to do shit with my clients, especially if it's illegal. Number one. Number two, he then also like Ryan Wedding, he had like a escort madam, and then he got that lady to like use her sex workers to like find out where this witness is that was going to testify against him, and then he paid an influencer that did like the influencer had the last name Singh. I'm not associated with the influencer at all.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty. I mean,
100%.
brothers in Curry, maybe, but that's about it. But once again, this influencer like got paid $10,000, and then the FBI set up the influencer with like another. It was like the influencer got paid to like push something about this guy being a rat, and then ultimately like they put all this data together, and then like witness was killed that was going to support the FBI or what the prosecution, bro. There was just so many pieces that this guy just
This
put out there.
as terrible as this guy is, this would probably make a really great TV show.
Yeah.
Dude, it's gonna make an amazing TV show. Like I listened to this. There was another part of his component called the Italian. So this was like a business guy that the Italian was like a special forces operator from Italy that ran like a Delta Force or some shit, some sort of like military training thing for Ryan Wedding in Mexico. And like supposedly Ryan Wedding owned this like fucking $7 million Mercedes that this guy owned. Dude, it's crazy.
This
bro.
sounds like a cross between Ozark and No Country for Old Men.
I've never
Assassinating
seen that.
people, and I mean, I mean, that is like the start of a good TV show. An Olympic athlete becomes a drug trafficker.
So now let's ask Audie, do you want to be an Olympic athlete?
No.
Do you want to be a drug trafficker?
No. I had to think.
He
What
had to
am I
pause.
at?
He was like, there's a lot of money that comes along with it.
There is.
I mean, I remember watching a video on this guy Ryan Wedding. at some point last year because they were talking about him being on like the FBI's most wanted list, and I remember watching this video being like, "Damn, like, how did he go from being like this Olympic athlete, or someone who competed in the Olympics, to being one of like the most feared uh drug lords like
El
across
Jefe.
El Jefe across the Western Hemisphere. So I mean, I'm glad he's in he's in cuffs, and he's not murdering anybody else, but
Well,
it's
so
it's an insane situation.
here's something I want to ask, and I want to get Adi's opinion. So like, this is so the whole thing is this guy. So there's this big dilemma of whether or not he turned himself in or he got captured. Some people are saying he walked into the U.S. Embassy and turned himself in, and then he hired the lawyer. I think the lawyer that his defense lawyer is grandson of like a crime mob family. And like this guy went into this whole thing about whether or not he's a rat will determine. The lawyer's saying, "Oh, he didn't turn him in. He didn't turn himself in. He was captured." So I mean, maybe he was just walking by the U.S. Embassy and they were like, "Hey, Ryan, come on."
Hey, why don't you come on in?
But that's what I'm saying. So like I know back in the day, like our generation kind of looked at people as rats. Like you give them, like the whole snitches get stitches shit. But there's been such a cultural shift, I feel, with rats and how they're treated in prison. So Adi, as our senior young person, how do you feel about snitches?
I still feel the same way. Snitches get stitches. I
So like, what do you think about like 6ix9ine?
I mean, personally, I don't really care because I could be. He snitched on like, but he was about to get killed though, right? I'm pretty sure 6ix9ine was about to get shot or something like
Yeah.
that, so he snitched on them. I would also snitch personally. Stitches are good sometimes.
Snitches get stitches.
Hey,
But,
listen.
I would snitch.
Listen. King Von went to jail and he acted gay. All right, so I think I can get a little bit of a pass.
King Von, who's that?
You've never heard of King Von?
No.
King of Chicago.
No, I don't know who that is.
Yo, he's a rapper. Wait, how does it go? I think it's like just got top from a stripper bitch. She from Tennessee or something like that. I think that's how it goes.
Oh, I do know the song now.
yeah.
Very classic American song. Yes, I know it.
Yeah,
It's a classic American song.
Classic American.
Classic Americana.
It's actually Billboard Top 100
Really?
of the 1950s.
Wow. Okay. Hey, I gotta put it on my list.
Top from a stripper bitch.
Listen, just the moral of the story is right. He is a gangbanger. Okay, he's a thug from Chicago.
What's your definition of gangbang?
I think we all have the same definition of gangbang. I don't think I have to go into detail about it. But he's pretty much like supposed to be like a thug, killing a whole bunch of people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he went to jail, and since he has a lot of oppositions, he
Our local, we're getting our what is it? What's your generation?
Gen Z.
Our Gen Z thesaurus.
Thesaurus.
Adi is our resident Gen Z thesaurus.
The opposition.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
cool.
keep going.
Keep me
So
posted, man.
because he got caught, I guess he went to jail or whatever. So he has ops in jail. So to get protection, he pretended to be gay, and apparently he got protection.
I mean, it's kind of like how the Pirates did it, bro. They protect the booty.
Yeah.
Boom.
Good one.
Boom.
That's a good line.
Hell yeah. Gasparilla's coming up too, baby.
Gasparilla.
Tampa, Florida. If anyone doesn't know about Gasparilla in Tampa, Florida.
Are we gonna be doing Gasparilla this year?
In cold, dude. We're not going to that shit. Last time we went, we were freezing. It's literally right now I woke up this morning, it was like 30 degrees, dude.
It was really, really great when we did go a few years ago, having the drone in the air and seeing hundreds of boats in such close proximity to each other. I'm surprised I was able to fly the drone back to land it on the boat. So yeah.
So anyway, so you think snitching's okay?
Under certain circumstances, like if like you're cheating on a test and some motherfucker behind you is like, "Oh, teacher, he's snitching. I'm beating his ass." But if you're about to get killed, then yeah.
Okay, so it comes down to whether it's life or death. All right.
Yeah.
So now, Josh, what do you think? Is snitching okay?
If I don't know, man, it's I think it's not okay, but I mean, who fucking cares? I'm not in criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the moment I got to worry about snitching, I know I've made some bad life choices.
That is true. That is
You know what I
very
mean?
true.
The moment I have to worry about, man, I gotta snitch my way out of this situation. I gotta take a good look in the mirror to be like, what the fuck did I do to put myself in this situation to begin with?
So I was watching Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's Joe Rogan podcast, their recent episode, because they just released that new movie.
The Rip. I
Rip
watched
is
it
good,
last
bro.
night, man. What a great movie, dude. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. It was really, really entertaining.
You know the scene in the town where they're doing the switch in the car and they look over and they see the police officer and he turns his head? So evidently that was a true story. Like Ben Affleck said he went into prison and interviewed a bunch of criminals that were part of the town, and he literally was like, yeah, the guy was like, yeah, we robbed this place, and then we were switching cars and we looked over and we saw the cop and he turned his face, and that line that he said, oh, he didn't want to be on the wall at the VFW, that was legitimately a line from the thing. So it made me think, like, Josh is that type of guy. Like, he'll see some shit and he'll just be like, doop, turn his face.
Is your no, but that's a great scene because it really encapsulates, like, is your life worth it?
Yeah.
Is your life worth it in that moment? Like, yeah, like you want to do the right thing and you see these guys robbing the bank or, you know, doing something that they shouldn't. But in that moment, it's 4 guys with assault rifles and you're just a patrol cop. What are you going to do?
And here's the beauty of it, man. Like, for me, when I think about snitching, I'm like, well, I got a lawyer-client privilege, baby. That's the beauty of attorney-client privilege in my eyes is, as a lawyer, there's a lot of things that I know and I cannot say because of the ethical rules. And I think that's something that everyone needs to be aware of. Is obviously a lawyer cannot ethically help you commit crimes, and a lawyer cannot ethically help you, break the law. There's a lot of things, but that concept of attorney-client privilege is something that's sacred, right? And above all, there's so many things that that the government protects, and the bar and all. They really do give a lot of deference to lawyers in protecting that sacred right for you to be able to talk to your lawyer. So, like, if you're going to snitch or do something, my advice is to always talk to a lawyer. Don't get a lawyer to help you break the law or, lie to the court. I have been personally involved with trapping several lawyers in the history and I'm good at this shit. I know how to find when a lawyer's doing something unethical and navigate my ways through it. Yeah, I use the bar rules, and yeah, I use the ethics opinions, but I just play by the rules, baby. I try to play by the rules and do what I can do.
You are excellent at what you do, man. You are excellent at what you do. I've been witness to it. So, yeah. With that being said, man, great episode. To everybody tuning in, check out The Rip, man. That was a really, really good movie.
And His and Hers.
His and
Hers. His and Hers.
Shiana actually put
Good
me onto
fucking
that. We finished the first episode.
John
and,
Barenthal did.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Bernthal. Yeah, he's a.
Is it John or Joe?
Joe Bernthal.
It's not John. It's not Joe Barenthal.
It's Joe Bernthal. That's his name.
Google that shit right now, Audie. It's John Barenthal.
It's Joe Bernthal.
Are we putting money on this?
Yeah.
I'll put $1.
Come on, Audie. Pull it up.
Come on.
Pull up the Google search.
The detective, right?
Yeah.
John.
Boom! I told you.
John Bernthal?
Jon. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you got one letter wrong, bitch.
Fuck.
It's Joe Barenthal.
I can see the loser across the screen right now.
Loser. Winner.
Uh,
His name think Joe Baron, the Punisher? You think the Punisher was Joe Baron?
Yeah, dude, that's what I thought that, man.
Joe is just some nice bloke that's walking down the street, dude. Don't insult the guy.
Damn.
John Barenthal, bro.
Yeah, you're right. Damn.
You know, you should be ashamed of yourself as a actor, as a producer, as a movie.
Damn.
You know what? You need to go and reevaluate yourself after this episode.
I can see the sad music being played as you're
Put
drilling
the
into me
waist
right
in.
now.
You know what? I'm going to end this episode. It's been a great episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. Josh has been demoted. He's no longer allowed to do the closing. Please check out all of our episodes on iTunes and Spotify and all the other things. What else do I have to say?
I mean, you did it.
All right, that's it. We're done. We're ending this episode.
Peace.
Later.